Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read part of Douglas Jardine's book, The Mad Mullah of Somaliland. This is a book about Mohammed Abdullahi Hassan. Now, Douglas Jardine was what was known as the Secretary to the Administration Somaliland 1816 to 1921. He was, we can say, maybe second or third in command in Somaliland, in the colonial government of Somaliland during this time. And he did participate, we can assume, in the planning and the campaigns that happened against the Mohammed Abdullahi Hassan in the wars that came to be known as the Dervish Wars. Now, in this is chapter 2 we are reading. And I need to say that there are a few people who have asked me where they can find the book to read. And I've put a link in the description section of the video. You can go check there and find the book. Fortunately, these books, because they are very old books, you can find free copies, and these are legit, not stolen copies. I'm not the type of a person who will read a stolen copy, let alone share it with other people. I don't believe in that, because I know writing books and publishing books is a very costly affair, and it's not ethical to be sharing or reading books that are stolen. So these copies you find them in the archives.org. They are legit copies, so you can go there, get a copy free and read. In this section, we are going to read about the early first scare that happened in Berbera about Mohammed Abdullahi Hassan, and the stories and the rumors were coming that he was coming to attack Berbera, and then very many people actually escaped, left the town and went to Aden because they believed that something huge was about to happen. And Douglas Jardine tells us that initially it was so difficult to get information about the activities of Mohammed Abdullahi Hassan. The British colonial government at Berbera did not know what was happening, and some of these rumors were all they could get, nothing concrete. And this is what he says. About the same time, rumors became current that the Mullah was collecting arms and men with a view to establishing his authority over the southeastern regions of the Protectorate and heading a religious expedition into Abyssinia. Inquiries were immediately set on foot, but great difficulty was experienced in obtaining any trustworthy intelligence owing to his distance from Berbera, and because his followers were bound by a solemn oath to say nothing about him. So there was distance, but there was also these followers who were very difficult to bring to say anything about Mohammed Abdullahi Hassan. On the 12th April, however, the Consul General, in a dispatch to the Marquess of Salisbury, was able to report that the Mullah's following was estimated at 3,000 men, that all the tribesmen within reach who had either held aloof were being compelled by force to join his sect, and that there was no longer any doubt that he was organizing a movement antagonistic to the administration. Yeah, so of course, when you read this book, and I've said this in another video, you need to be very careful the language that is used. You have to be someone who understands how choice of words, we can say, creates reality. And most people seem not to understand that. That the way things are talked about is not just about things being talked about, it's also the way they are talked about. And an example of that here is, for example, the choice of words, compelled by force. So we don't know how he arrived at the conclusion that those people were being compelled by force. That's a very big argument to make. And but then we can question, how did he come to that conclusion? Maybe there were people who were compelled. I'm not saying there were not. It's possible. But how did we know that those people were compelled, especially after telling us they were not getting any info really? And it's also possible that they actually knew that nobody was being compelled, but PR is PR. Public relations is public relations. Sometimes you minimize and maybe make other things look big. That's how usually these things are done. And it's not just in this era and this time and in Somaliland, everywhere, even today. That's how so you need to be very careful how words are used. So there was the belief that he had close to 3,000 men who were working with him. And it became very clear that he was trying to antagonize the colonial government. He continues, he was said to be laying claim to supernatural powers. This is another of that. I'm not saying this is not a claim he made, But we have to be very skeptical that he made that claim. We have to be very skeptical about that. Maybe he did, I don't know. But there are words when I see, or there is a way when I see words are used, I become a little bit skeptical. I'm like, is this actually reporting or is this creating reality? He continues this sort of different part in the same chapter. In the meantime, the Mullah, paramount among the Dolba hunter, was making overtures with varying success to the Habri, Toljala, and Habri Yunis tribes with a view to extending his authority towards the central area of the protectorate. In August 1899, with a force of 5,000 men, of whom 1,500 were mounted and 200 armed with modern rifles, he arrived at Burao, a position of considerable strategical importance, commanding as it does dry season water supply of the Abri Yunis, Abri Toljala, and Dolbahanta. So he arrives in Burao in August 1899 with that force. The rebellion was open. Immediately on arrival, Mohammed declared himself to be the expected Mahdi and proclaimed a holy war against the infidels. Again, maybe he proclaimed himself to be the Mahdi. Maybe he did, but there's also a likelihood he did not say exactly that. Maybe he said something that was not. Because remember, this book is titled The Mad Mullah. So you need to bear that in mind. So if it's the Mad Mullah, there is going to be a tendency to try to portray him to be actually the mad person. So yeah, that's why you need to be very careful with how words are used. So the choice of the words, or the claim that he said or he claimed to be or he declared himself to be the expected Mahdi is very suspicious. Maybe there are people who believed he was actually a Mahdi, but but there is a likelihood it is not him who said it. It is the people around who said this is the Mahdi, something of sorts. That's what I think. His followers styled themselves dervishes, and all Somalis who had not joined him were denounced as kafirs or infidels and commanded to acknowledge his way forthwith. Maybe not exactly that way. Never know for sure. Had this appeal or blackmail, call it what you will, again, choice of words, met with any large measures of success, he would have undoubtedly have made some attempt to drive us into the sea, if only to maintain the high standard of his pretensions and claims. Again, choice of words, focus on the choice of words. As it was, he had to content himself with a swift raid on the religious community inhabiting the Kadariye Tarika at Sheikh, which was razed to the ground. On all sides, however, rumor, loud-tongued, carried it about the land that an attack on Berbera was imminent. The bazaars was to be looted and the mission houses destroyed, the gaol opened and the town burned. The Indian merchant stored away their valuables, and as many as were able left for Aden in the SS Falcon, the 90-ton Leviathan that plies between Aden and the Somali coast, to impress on the British officers proceeding to Somaliland the dangers and discomforts of the life that lies before them. Rumors came to Berbera that Mohammed Abdulle Hassan was planning to attack Berbera, and there was panic in the city. And actually, seems like a considerable number of people did leave the city and went to Aden because they believed that actually he was going to come and attack. He continues, this general alarm was only allayed by the arrival in the harbor of the RIMS Minto and HMS from Pomone. These are two ships. I guess they were military ships. I'm thinking they were military ships. They are the ones that made some people to be like, okay, maybe we don't have to run away. We do have people to protect us now. Yeah, so that's how rumors made people to panic in Berbera. And this is very early on in the beginning, or very early on in what we call the Dervish Wars. Those are my random thoughts.